Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's stream. Today we are going to be continuing with the Road to 2100 series, and today is episode 6 of the series. So in this series we play a few 10 plus year rapid games, and we try to get to 2100. Currently we are about at 1990, and so without a further ado, let's get into the first game. So our first opponent is Thrones 1, who is 1931. So let's begin with Knight F, the King's Indian Defense, and continue with the typical theory, which this is I think the main line. Usually the knight is on F3, and sometimes G3 and Bishop G2, or sometimes something like this, I guess. So white is trying to be aggressive. Let's go for d6 and typical stuff, control the center. So bishop d3 is interesting, but let's just go for it. Okay, so knight g2. So I'm not sure why not knight f3. I can't try this. Knight f3. Maybe they want to keep f4 as a possibility, but let's just go knight b7 with e5 ideas. So you get bishop g5. The idea, I think, is that if we go e5, our piece is pinned, but usually we have this queen e8 idea, which just gets rid of bishop pinning. So now bishop g5 looks rather useless. So our opponent's playing pretty fast. Not sure why. And we get d5. So now this bishop is pretty bad. And let's just go target it with knight c5. Oh yeah, by the way, I prefer the knight bd7 variations. I know knight a6 is technically better, but in online chess I just play knight bd7. So now white's idea is typically to go b4, so let's just go and prevent that. So now the bishop is kind of useless on this square. So we kind of just have a slight advantage, I think. And our opponent is finally starting to think a bit. They're thinking a lot. Typically, I know I don't know. Usually you go a4 here to prevent b4 entirely since there's en passant. Alexa's Alexa's really annoying. Okay, so I guess a4 is fine, but I think it's kind of slow. Maybe better is that we go just I mean, f3 doesn't really do anything in the first place. Like, I thought f4 to at least. Well, I guess then you open the bishop's diagonal, but it's kind of slow move. So let's just go d7 and a4. So I kind of want a3 to come in to try to go b4. Then I want to completely shut it down. But looks like our opponent's doing whatever this is. So, yeah. So we get a4 anyway, which completely eliminates b4, and the b4 square is now weak, so that makes me immediately want to go like this. Hey, by the way, I can't understand.
So, yeah, knight b5, that is a drawback of a5, but, I mean, this rook wasn't doing anything anyway. So, I think just going... Maybe even queen... Wait, the pawn isn't even hanging. Yeah, but I want to go knight b4, so let's just go queen c8? Yeah. Yeah, queen is kind of losing tempos, but... I will remind you that white has whatever this is. So, yeah. So, rook c1. Maybe the idea is knight b4, they have bishop b1, or what? I mean, I don't see anything wrong with the knight b4. Bishop b1, yeah. Now, I want to play c6, but d6 hangs, so... I'm thinking about this plan, which is kind of... Oh, I just hung a rook. Okay, never mind. Yeah. I mean, maybe we have some compensation. I'm just gonna call it a sacrifice, as a sacrifice. Because white's pieces are kind of really inactive here. And this bishop was one of the most active pieces in this knight, too. So they're gonna take, so let me just remove this. I'm gonna be really surprised if they... Wait, they can technically hear my stream, right? So... Okay, so here I think maybe... Maybe b3 is the best. Yeah. That's what I was expecting. Now, after f4, I think probably like knight c3, just to get this knight out inactive. Knight c3 or queen d2, one of these moves. Seems they're thinking. Okay, so that's interesting, but I don't think it's very good. Because I can just slide the queen over. Now knight c3 or queen d2. Oh yeah, does it show I'm streaming anyway? Oh, it does. That's nice. Okay. Okay, CD, obviously. Yeah, now knight C3. Is he gonna play knight C3 or what? Okay, instead we get knight A3, which allows queen A7. Which doesn't really do much, but, you know, checks are nice. Yeah, not much we can do. Let's go for queen B6. So now you know knight C4, not the best move. Not the best move, maybe queen D2. Knight C4 isn't that good. Okay. So now they're thinking. Yeah, by the way, if you haven't picked it up, I'm kind of just trolling him. Because the person's probably, I don't know. So right now his pieces are kind of inactive. So maybe like, okay, that's not great either because I'm not sure what that does. You're gonna go knight A5 and then what? So just go B5. And suddenly, you know, we're getting a bit active. I'm not saying we have compensation for the lost pawn, but I'm saying, not the lost pawn, the lost piece, but our pieces are active. So now, so was that the idea, queen D1? I mean, really? You just, what? What is this obscure stuff? Okay, let's go knight F6. Just to defend H7 and to prevent any queen invasion. Which was the problem with king G8, I think, at least. Okay, so they're going for this sacrifice, which I'm not sure is... Yeah, I'm not sure what that does. And now your whole attack is gone. Like, what was that? Where did your attack go? I can even allow E5. Probably not though. So let's go rook E8 with the idea of doing something. So your opponent is playing dubiously. With that weird sacrifice, and now I'm only down a pawn. So I might have chances. Or maybe not, who knows. So that's interesting. Because you just hang... Wait, why did I do that? I don't know. I kind of wanted to do this. I think probably I'm just fine here. Because you can't maintain this, so you just lost 2 pawns. For no reason. Of course you can play like this and get the pawn back, but I'm just saying, like, you just lost 2 pawns for no reason. And now actually I'm up a pawn. So that means we just gotta come back, which is nice. Okay, so we get... That's not as... I mean, let's just take the free pawn. I mean, let's not overcomplicate, you know? Free pawn, free pawn. What can I say? Okay, so we have bishop a2. I mean, that's not amazing. We just have like rook e2, you know, and this bishop is... I think actually what's surprising is that this bishop is just gone. Maybe you have bishop c4? But I think you can take, and then take, yeah. Clear up a piece. Wasn't very smart of our opponent, but I'm not insulting, you know, our opponent's intelligence here. I don't want to insult his intelligence, so like, yeah. Okay, so we have queen g5. And the sad thing is that they can't even take this pawn. Okay, so we actually got to 2,000. I named the live stream Pushing to 2,000, but I didn't actually know we would get to 2,000. So we got to 2,000, which is nice, and let's just push on, I guess, to 2,100. Okay, so our next opponent is a 2035. Let's just go for e4. c6, d4. Now we got some theory. Cutting edge classical Caro-Kann. We get the Tartakower. I imagine, or we get G. Okay, we get the Tartakower. Which is what like 90% of people play. Kind of gets boring after a bit, but Caro-Kann players are Caro-Kann players. I mean, what can you do? So 92 just castles, and now that is the first move, which makes absolutely no sense because we can just go f3. And I still don't understand why in all these Caro-Kanns people go bishop g4. Like, it's not hard. It just doesn't do anything. Like, oh, I'm so scared. I can literally just go like... Well, I could go g3, and I probably am, but you can also go h3. You can also just sacrifice the pawn, probably. Or you can just even go f4, like, it's not hard. In this pin, I'm going to do this just to show that there's nothing here and with this pin. So, like, it's kind of, you know, useless that... whatever what they're doing. So yeah, rook e8. I mean, they're putting pressure, but I mean, there's not much that they're doing because we can just go even queen c2 and we just get a tempo. Of course, now bishop g6 is just promptly met with f5, and I'm okay giving up the pawn because it's kind of useless. And see, they just have to give up the bishop, and now this bishop is relatively useless just staring into this pawn, and we have the bishop pair, and this knight is doing whatever this is. And I swear I just have some sort of like some curse where I just lose this game somehow, which is, yeah, just free pawn, and there's really not much black can do here. Just rook e1, and yeah, I mean, that these kind of moves, they just don't have any threat. I mean, what can I say? Even if I wanted, I could go bishop d3, but generally just attack the queen because there's nothing to be worried of. Queen h5, again, nothing to be worried of. Let's just go for bishop f5. Just attack the knight. Now I'm just going to pre-move if they take here. I mean, yeah, not any rocket science here. So, we're just up a pawn, and black is doing whatever this is. So let's just try to be active, like we should be. Active in the sense, let's just bring our queen out. And let's just try to prove that black's pieces here are not doing anything. So now bishop h3, simple move. And f5, I think, is a bit overcommitting. Like, we can just go anything, to be honest. Okay, they just hang a pawn. Let's just take that. Just a free pawn, completely free. And then actually, we just win another pawn. So here, maybe a fancy move. Oh, okay, yeah, a very fancy move. They just resign. So let's go for a next opponent. Who is going to be Violet Myers, who is 1961. So we got a d4, let's go knight f6. And interesting, maybe we'll get a Jobava London, which is kind of like absolutely garbage against this setup, King's Indian. You're supposed to do this against d5, but I guess your opponent just doesn't know that and just plays the Jobava London against everything, which is a common thing people do. Like, they just play the London against everything, like, I get. And now, whatever this is, like, this isn't even close to great. First of all, I can win a pawn with just pure bishop, knight f5, knight h5, bishop anywhere, and then you just take. But, I mean, there's no buts. I'm just gonna play knight h5. Attack the f4 bishop, and if they go bishop g5, we just take, and then we trade queens, and we just win. Anyway, after we take, there's no g4 things, remember, because I can just drop back. Actually, there might be. No, there's not, because I have takes here, and I'm fine. So they just cleanly just blundered a pawn. This is why you can't just play the same opening against everything. And I'm not sure in what Jobava London you just go e4, e5 anyway, so opponent's doing whatever this is. And they just promptly just are completely lost. I mean, streaming gave me some quick wins. It's nice. So that, again, just does absolutely nothing. Like, literally nothing. That is just the most useless move I've seen. Like, no offense, but I just have to say the truth. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's not rocket science. This isn't. And I just blundered. Oh my god, I'm so stupid. What am I doing? Okay, I don't know. That was so bad. Okay, I just did all that trash talking and then I just lost. Okay, let's just. Please get a c5. I'm just gonna play like the most random. I'm just gonna play the Vienna. Because I just want to get that elo back. Okay, so we get the knight c6. So there's a nice trap here. Bishop c4. Yes, and here there is the queen g4. This is an interesting variation. And the trap actually happens after queen to f6. There's also knight to f6, which just hangs a pawn, but it's apparently a variation. And also g6. So Anyway, after this, Engine says it's about equal, but I mean, you have that, and you don't have a bishop on g7. So, yeah, I mean, you are wasting 2 tempi with the queen, and you have to play queen f3, by the way, to just avoid d5, which is, like, something I've fallen into, like, a lot. So we just attack f7. Usually, I think knight f6 is the main line here, if I remember correctly. Queen f6 is also a variation. And that's basically it here, because you have to defend this pawn. Or maybe we'll just get a d6 and then mate one. That would be great. So our opponent is thinking, how hard is our opponent? Our opponent is at 2100. So, usually I'll just show you the trap here with queen f6. There's actually the interesting move knight d5, because after queen f2, king d1, surprisingly there's no checkmate because the bishop just defends this diagonal. And typically white just has, I think Engine says +1, but genuinely it's just completely lost. Like, c7 is hanging, the queen is just not in a place, and even in some variations with queen d4, the queen gets trapped with d3 knight c3, which is just insane. Like, that's just a complete destruction of black's position. But this is the, I think, considered the main line in this variation. Well, usually the main line goes knight to f6 typically, and knight to a5, which is the main idea to get the bishop. So again, knight to f6, that's one of the main lines. So let's go d3, and let's see what our opponent plays. So of course, we just want to develop pieces. Yeah, so knight d4, let's just go back. I think I messed up the move order. You're supposed to play knight e2 first or something. I don't know. I don't remember. But we have still a decent position. Of course, there are knight e4 ideas, among others like knight e2, etc., etc. So we got d6. Yeah, okay, I mean d6 is d6. It's just a developing move. So let's go for knight ge2. So we just want to develop in castle typically in these positions. And it's, again, nothing that complex. You just develop in castle. So probably maybe changing up the move orders would be better. Perhaps something like bishop to h6 to prevent castling, but who knows. And now I imagine our opponent will just castle because they'll castle. I don't know what they'll do. Okay, so we get knight e6. So that move genuinely doesn't make a lot of sense. I guess we just... I mean, what is this knight doing? Is it just dancing or what? What is this? So, let's just castle and go king h1. And, by the way, I don't want to go bishop h6 because there's just this knight g4 stuff which I don't want to get into because, I mean, I just have to go back and, you know, some issues in general. So this is a typical idea, going for d5 to strike in the center. And usually, and right here, this is not an exception, we can go knight to a5, which just simply grabs the bishop for, not free, but for a knight, which is great, in my opinion. And after we take the bishop, black's position kind of collapses because black already has all his pawns on light squares, basically almost all of them, which counteracts his light squared bishop, and his two knights are just, his one knight just made 4 moves in a row. Well, not in a row, but basically in a row. And here, okay, we don't directly win the bishop, but if you imagine a scenario with c3 and yeah, I guess you don't really. Okay, never mind. I kind of messed this up. So the problem is that b5 is coming, and your knight has no squares, which is kind of sad. So it's not just kind of sad. My knight's just stuck. Okay, so I guess we have to go for this kind of odd b4 move. There's b5. I'm not sure if that's great. You'd have to calculate, which I'm too lazy to do. But bishop c7. Let's go bishop b3, with the idea that now b5 we have knight b2, and our knight is safe. But again, it's just like black's knight. Actually, it's even worse than black's knight. How many moves does this knight make? Yeah, it went from kind of similar. It just did this, whatever that was, to come to b2. And now they're going to go to open the A file. So I think I'm better prepared to open the A file here because, I mean, I don't know why I said because my pieces are more combobulated, I guess is the right word, right now. So black doesn't really have, yeah, and they don't even open the A file. So here I can't take, because if I take, then my rook's hanging. And I know you saw that probably or probably not. But we can just go A5. And now we create an outside pass pawn, which promptly will get obliterated probably, but well, it survives. That's good, I guess. So let's just, so this pawn in an endgame could theoretically become a queen, and usually the pawns are over here, so we call this an outside pass pawn, because it is outside of the typical pawn blob, I guess. So now you notice this knight's odd placement. So because I can just take it and create doubled pawns, but I don't want to give up my bishop. But now you also notice my knight's odd placement, because it's just not doing anything. In fact, it's blocking bishop b2. So it's kind of doing harm to my position. And in general, I want to keep the position a bit closed, because these bishops will activate if I open the position. So this is kind of getting uncomfortable on the queen side over here. So let's just try to reroute our pieces a bit. So our knight, it's not serving any purpose, so let's just reroute it to e3 or c3, or we can just keep it on d1. So our opponent just, okay, so this is, I don't think, a good idea, because to me, I mean, these pawns were kind of weak, and I think keeping the tension there was better, because keeping the tension there was better. And now I just have two pawns. Like, I just had one pawn. Sure, your center pawns are okay, but I think, yeah, my outside pawns here are more advanced than your center pawns here. So I just have a better chance at winning this, actually, than I had before. So, and it's not really that hard play. You just have to kind of try to push these pawns in the right way. But the order is obviously important, because if you push a6, then there might be some problem pushing this pawn, and you might have to trade a piece, which I guess trading a piece is fine, but in general I would want to push the b5 pawn first. But then again, a5 would be hanging, so we would have to try to protect a5 tactically or just directly. So then you just come to the conclusion of f3, and after they move, you just go bishop d2 and then b5. But also there's knight d6, so okay, never mind. We just don't have that issue, I guess. They just completely don't care. So I guess a simpler way, now that this knight doesn't have anything to do with our position here, is just to go for this queen a4. And after a6 now, bishop to c6. Or just bishop c6 immediately. Oh, they resign. Okay, so let's stop for today. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And just, if you're watching this on Lichess, thank you there. Or if you're just watching this on YouTube, also thank you. And be prepared for more streams, because I kind of like how this went. And finally, just like the last and. See you later. Now get out of here.